that he could not feel the pain. He felt every bit of it. We are talking about Jesus as man, Jesus in the flesh, Jesus feeling all the pain and anguish and fear and discomfort that we feel. Can you imagine? Jesus is there in Gethsemane. His heart is breaking. Few of his best friends are taking a nap. Peter, one of his closest friends, is fixing to deny he ever even heard the name Jesus. And Judas, here in just a few hours, is fixing to turn him over. Everybody in his inner circle, the ones that he had chosen, the ones that were the closest to him, the ones in his inner circle, were going to start dropping and are going to start turning on him. Can you imagine? I would not enjoy the pain, but if somebody came to me and said, Mark, you're going to have to do something and it's going to cost you your life, but you're going to have to do it for your son. Is there any parent here that would give their life for their child? Jesus gave his life for people that didn't even care. People that didn't even care, that wasn't concerned with him, he gave his life. And you know, really, all he really asked, and I don't know if he asked it, all the world really asked, is that we honor that maybe an hour a week. But people have things to do, and they have stuff that, you know, carries a little more importance, so they can't really make it to church all the time. And you know, that's something here lately that's really has been bothering me. Because church has just become something I'll get to it. Aren't you glad we don't have a Savior that said, you know what? One day I'll get around to being crucified on the cross. One day I'll do it, but not right now. I'm going to go back on up to heaven and hang out with my daddy, and I'm just going to sit down there and I'm going to watch people die, and I'm going to watch them go to hell. And maybe one day, maybe in 2012, I'll come and do this, so everybody that has lived up to that point cannot know what freedom from sin is all about. But no, we had a Savior who said, you know, I'm going to go and I'm going to do it now. I'm going to die on a cross, even though I know nobody really cares. They'll give me some good lip service, and they'll throw pretty little things in the church, and they'll hang some pretty little gold crosses, and they'll have nice little brass and gold collection plates and candlesticks and flowers, and it'll make them feel real good and warm and fuzzy on the inside. And then they'll go out into the world and they'll do what they want to do. This isn't pretend. He died on the cross even though he knew nobody cared. And nobody did. Nobody did, not even his closest people. Broken, crushed, the darkest hour, a preview in the garden of what he is going to go through. And nobody cared. You ever been going through one of them storms where you got your windshield wipers wide open and your lights on, but you still can't see a thing? You're doing everything. You're going through all the stuff. The wipers are on. I've got them on. I've done this. Let me turn on the lights. Let me do this. But you still can't see a thing. And that is exactly what Jesus is going through, because of this time he has become man. He's not healing people. Jesus could have healed himself. He could have made himself to where he wouldn't be concerned with this pain. If he can raise Lazarus from the dead, if he can heal the lame and make the blind to see and the deaf to hear, certainly he could have put some kind of special spell on himself that he wouldn't feel this pain. But no, he said, at this hour I will make myself completely man so that I can feel the pains. To Jesus, the garden was a storm. The wipers are going, the lights are on, but it's so foggy, it's so dense that you can't see where to go, and you feel alone, and you feel lost, and you feel scared. And there he was, and 2,000 years ago, nobody wanted to stand up for him. And 2,000 years later, we have followed the disciples to a T because we too don't want to stand up for him. We want to take a nap in the corner. Jesus, I'm sorry that you fell down and you prayed and you sweated blood. But you know what? I've got something to do today. You know what? There isn't children and youth today, so it isn't fun to come to church. So my God, I'm not going to church. We didn't have a hard time picking songs today because there wasn't children here to say, sing this, because it wasn't fun. There was nothing fun playing today, so we decided I will not go to church because it's not fun. Jesus died on the cross, and it certainly wasn't fun. And it gets me under my skin that we sit there and think that church is about fun. It's not about softball games. It's not about fun. It's not about children and youth. It's about Jesus Christ dying on a damn cross. And none of us think that it matters anymore. We can't even give an hour, 1 hour a week to Christ. And he drove nails into his hand so that we could say, Lord, thank you, and I'll get around to you when I have time. I'm sorry that this angers me, but it bothers me that there is an opportunity to worship God, and there's 20-something people that have come to worship. Jesus did that so that when we had a problem, Jesus did that so when we got in a storm, we would never feel alone. We could say, I can go to a Savior who's been through a storm too. I can go to a Savior who has been in a dark hour. That way none of us will ever feel alone. You see, we look at a man and he looks like that and he's nice and pretty and the hair is parted nice and it's flowing and he looks beautiful and we've got the gold cross. But there he is, hanging on a cross with a crown of thorns jabbed into his brow, with nails into his hands. We're going to be singing a song in a couple of weeks, and we sat up here in the choir loft Wednesday, and the choir was moved and touched as tears came down because it was talking about those were my thorns. Those were my nails. It was my cross. They should have took time and lined us up and threw us all up there on the cross and started nailing us in, and the road should have been lined with millions of crosses. But Jesus says, no, I will go on your behalf. I will take those nails. I will take that crown. I will take that cross. Really only ask, and he doesn't ask this, he asks for a lot more. We give him maybe 52 hours a year. 52 hours a year. Have you ever thought about it? If you went to Sunday service 11 to 12 once a week for 52 weeks, you would give Jesus 52 hours a year out of, I don't know, I can't even imagine, 7,000, I don't know. As time goes on, I'm starting to realize, and I'm glad that God started showing me at a younger age, because I was the same way when I was 20-something, 30-something, but I'm starting to realize that this isn't fun and games. It's not just about, y'all, Jesus Christ is God. And he prayed that night for hours and hours. If God has to pray for hours and hours and hours a day, do you think it's harder for God to get through the day, or do you think it's harder for us to get through the day? Probably us. I don't know. My prayers usually last, I would think, probably somewhere around 6 or 7 minutes. And Jesus prayed for an hour and came back, went back and prayed again, came back, went back and prayed again. I've never prayed and sweated blood. And this was God. And here I am, man. And I don't think my troubles are enough that I need to pray that much. This evening we're going to end with Amazing Grace, and we all know it. We'll just sing the first verse. If you would, please stand.